Someone in the comments on one of the last video asked whether any of this applies to axolotls. And the honest answer is, almost none of it does. Because an axolotl is not a fish. It is a salamander. Specifically, it is a neotenic salamander, which means it never grows up. It keeps its larval body for its entire life. The feathery gills, the flat tail, the soft skin, all of it. And that difference in biology means the whole rulebook changes. So this video is about what is actually happening inside your axolotl's world, and why tapping the glass is a much stranger event than most people realize. Let's start with the obvious one, because it is the most misunderstood. Axolotls have small, lidless eyes positioned on the sides of their heads, and their visual acuity is not sharp by our standards. So when people say, "It doesn't see you," there is some truth there, but it is the wrong framing. The more accurate version is, it probably doesn't see a human face the way you imagine it does. It is not looking at you and registering, "Oh, that's my owner." What it does register is movement, silhouette, light changes, and, this is the part nobody thinks about, ultraviolet light. Research has found that the axolotl retina contains UV-sensitive cones with peak sensitivity around 360 to 370 nanometers. That is well outside what human eyes can detect. So, when you think about what your axolotl can and cannot see, the usual charts about animal color vision are incomplete. Your tank lighting, the reflections off the glass, even sunlight coming through a nearby window, all of that may contain visual information that your axolotl is picking up on and you are completely unaware of. And there is another visual quirk worth knowing. Research on axolotl behavior found evidence of lateralization, meaning the two sides of their brain do not process the world equally. Axolotls often respond strongly to moving food, and if it wriggles or drifts past their face, their system flags it as a potential meal. But studies found that mature axolotls showed a stronger tendency to respond to food appearing in the right visual field specifically. Their visual brain has a preferred side. So, when your axolotl seems to be ignoring something directly in front of it, that is not laziness. Its attention may simply be oriented differently than you expect. There is also a mirror problem that most owners have never heard of. Research on larval axolotls found that mirrored environments, where the animal sees a reflection of itself, altered their lateralized feeding behavior and were associated with inhibited growth compared to transparent wall conditions. That reflection can effectively become a permanent other animal in the room. So, if your tank has a reflective back wall or sits near a mirror, your axolotl may be living with a constant visual presence it cannot make sense of. That is worth thinking about. But vision, as important as it is not the main event, not even close. One of the most important ways axolotls sense their surroundings is through the lateral line system, a sensory system found in many aquatic animals that detects movement, vibration, and pressure changes in the water. The axolotl's lateral line consists of a network of sensory organs called neuromasts, located along the head and body, which detect changes in water pressure and vibrations, allowing the axolotl to sense the movements of nearby objects or potential prey. This is not a minor backup system. Research describes dedicated lateral line representations in the axolotl's midbrain, meaning waterborne information has its own serious neural processing route. It is not just detecting that something moved, it is building a picture of the water around it. Now here is where the glass tap becomes genuinely interesting. Salamanders are able to detect both waterborne and airborne sound by sensing vibrations that travel along sound waves. A study showed they are capable of detecting airborne sound despite not having a tympanic middle ear. So the ear is not missing. It is just built completely differently from ours. Research measured sound pressure sensitivity in adult axolotls with peak sensitivities around 80 and 240 Hz. That frequency range is important. It is low. It is the frequency of a dull thud, a bass note, a cabinet door closing nearby, heavy footsteps on a hardwood floor. A sharp fingernail click on glass produces a brief high-frequency tap that you notice, but the low-frequency component of that impact, the part that travels through the panel and into the structure of the tank, is exactly what an axolotl is most sensitive to. And the way that vibration arrives in their body is not like sound arriving in your ears. Research on salamander hearing found that they can detect low-frequency sound, partly through vibrations induced in the head and body directly, not via a tympanic ear like ours. The urodel middle ear contains an operculum connected to the shoulder girdle through the opercularis muscle, which has been proposed to aid in transmitting substrate vibrations into the inner ear via the forelegs. In other words, the vibration can enter through the body itself. A tap on the glass is not just a sound in the water. It can be a whole-body mechanical event. Every movement, splash, tap, filter hum, footstep, and vibration moves through the water in the tank. And axolotls can detect these vibrations and respond to changes in their environment. The tank is not a sealed box. It is a resonant structure. A tap on the front panel does not stay at the front panel. It travels into the glass, into the frame, into the substrate, into the water column. What you experience as a tiny fingertip sound, your axolotl may experience more like a miniature earthquake arriving from every direction at once, followed by a large moving silhouette appearing at the edge of its world. Signs of stress in an axolotl due to sound or vibration can include becoming more reclusive, darting around the tank erratically, gill curling, where the gills curve forward, refusal to eat, or frantic attempts to climb out of the water. That gill curl is the one to watch for. Forward bent gills are a stress signal. If you are seeing that regularly, something in the environment is triggering it, and it may not be the thing you think it is. One axolotl keeper noted that their animals could feel the vibrations of footsteps approaching the tank at night and would swim to the surface anticipating feeding time. That is the lateral line and vibration sensitivity working exactly as designed, detecting something approaching before it is even visible. Which raises a question worth sitting with. Your axolotl may detect you walking toward the tank before your hand ever gets close to the glass. The vibration arrives first. Sudden banging, tapping, loud speakers, heavy footsteps, or vibrating equipment can all make axolotls uncomfortable. Low-frequency sound from roughly 53 Hz up to about 315 Hz appears to be the range that most affects them, while high-frequency sound above around 1.25 kHz seems to bother them less. So, the bass from a speaker sitting near the tank, or even on the same surface, is potentially more disruptive than your voice. Your phone playing music on the tank stand is a more relevant disturbance than your face pressed against the glass. Now, to be fair about all of this, a single tap is not automatically a catastrophic event. The science supports strong sensitivity to vibration, but it does not prove that every axolotl interprets every tap identically. Context matters. Whether there is a hide available, how much light is in the tank, whether other stress signals are already present. What the research does suggest is that repetition is the real problem. One unexpected vibration is ambiguous, a recurring pattern of them, tapping every time you walk by, knocking the stand, running a speaker nearby, turns an unpredictable mechanical intrusion into a chronic disturbance. And chronic disturbance in a species this sensitive to its environment is a welfare issue, not just a behavioral quirk. There are a few other care points that follow directly from what this animal actually is, and they are worth knowing if you are keeping one. Temperature is one of them. Axolotls need cold water, ideally 16 to 18 degrees Celsius. They are not tropical animals. Warm water suppresses their immune system and stresses them in ways that are not always immediately visible. A chiller is often necessary in warmer climates, and this is one of the most common points where new keepers run into trouble. Substrate is another. Sudden banging, tapping, loud speakers, heavy footsteps, or vibrating equipment can make them uncomfortable, but gravel can actually kill them. Axolotls are suction feeders. They lunge and inhale. If there is gravel on the bottom of the tank, they can ingest it, and it can cause a gut impaction that is very difficult to treat and often fatal. Bare bottom, fine sand, or large flat slate tiles are the safe options. If someone tells you axolotls swallow gravel on purpose for buoyancy, that may occasionally be true. But the risk of impaction is real enough that most experienced keepers do not take the chance. And then there is the regeneration side of things, because it is genuinely extraordinary, and it is part of why this animal has been central to biological research for over a century. Axolotls can regenerate limbs, tail, parts of the eye, organs, and even portions of the brain. Axolotls possess a variety of unique sensory organs that allow them to thrive in their aquatic environment, from the lateral line system to their olfactory system and inner ear. These organs help them navigate their surroundings, locate prey, and detect potential threats. That regenerative capacity is not separate from the rest of their biology. It is part of what makes the neotenic, larval form body so remarkable. They never committed to the adult form, and in exchange, they kept abilities that most vertebrates lost. If you have been keeping an axolotl, and some of this is new to you, particularly the vibration sensitivity and the substrate risk, drop a comment below and let me know what surprised you most. And if you want to go deeper on aquatic animal sensory biology, the video on fish perception is worth watching next. A lot of the lateral line science overlaps, but the differences between fish and axolotls are just as interesting as the similarities. The glass between you and your axolotl is not a screen separating two worlds. For the axolotl, it is part of the world, one that can suddenly vibrate, shift the pressure in the water, and send a signal through its entire body that something large just happened outside. It does not need to see your face to know you are there. It felt you coming.